Hello everyone. I must apologize as my camera is not working currently, but the microphone seems to be functioning. My name is Zach Molter, and I am presenting for you a review of what I find to be an interesting paper about trends and topics in semantic web research. The paper's full title is A Decade of Semantic Web Research Through the Lenses of a Mixed Methods Approach. I know it is a mouthful. The paper was written in 2018 by Sabrina Kirrane, Marta Sabou, Javier D. Fernández, Francesco Osborne, Cécile Robin, Paul Buitelaar, Enrico Motta, and Axel Polleres. These authors are from 4 different institutions of higher learning, including the Vienna University of Economics and Business and the Vienna University of Technology in Austria, as well as the Open University in the UK and the National University of Ireland. This paper is basically trying to identify research topics and trends throughout the previous 10 years of academic papers that focus on semantic web research. In semantic web's infancy, the papers were written in a top-down approach, which is a style that expert knowledge-driven papers and writings. As more and more tools have been developed to further analyze the data, a more data-driven approach has been used, which is the bottom-up approach. This paper aims to provide a more complete review of semantic web topics and trends by using both methods to analyze past papers over the past 10 years. Also, the entire paper is available for your viewing at this address here at the bottom of this page. This paper focuses on the scientometrics behind using science to actually analyze science. By analyzing previous scientific papers, a more complete picture can be determined about semantic web topics and trends. As discussed on the previous slide, the 2 approaches will be qualitative or expert-driven and quantitative or data-driven. The paper also has a secondary goal of trying to understand the pros and cons of using each approach. The question the authors pose and attempt to answer is, can a more complete picture of semantic web topics and trends be discovered using a mixed methodology, combining the quantitative and qualitative research methods? Obviously, over a 27-page paper with mounds of data, this is a vast oversimplification, but that is the gist of the goal of this paper. The methodology that the authors use is twofold. They start by reviewing papers manually using their expert-driven methods to extract key topics. They follow that with 3 different topic analysis tools to be able to extract and analyze the data for them. They analyzed 10 years of papers from the International Semantic Web Conference, the Extended Semantic Web Conference, the Semantics Conferences, the Semantic Web Journal, and the Journal of Web Semantics. The 3 tools used were PoolParty, Rexplore, and Saffron. I'll go into those tools a little later on. As I stated in the previous slide, the authors started with their expert review of their papers. They independently did this work so that there would be less inherent bias between them, and then they discussed after the individual work was finished. Once the work was done, their expert-driven analysis was finalized using a consensus workshop among all the authors. Firstly, the authors described the conceptual steps that are followed when it comes to data-driven topic analysis. The authors came up with the conceptual overview shown in this slide. The important takeaways of this overview are that taxonomy creation involves the creation of a topic taxonomy that guides the analysis process. In practice, this step can be achieved manually by domain experts or automatically with the taxonomy being learned either from the document corpus of interest or from a larger external document corpus. Corpus annotation concerns the annotation of the document corpus in the terms of the taxonomy topics. Different annotation approaches range from manually assigning each paper in a corpus to the most representative topics, annotating the document abstracts with relevant topics, or annotating the entire text of the paper based on a topic list or hierarchy. And finally, analytics refers to various analytical activities that can be conducted over the annotated document corpus. For example, trend detection analytics, expert profilings, and recommendations. The three tools that were used for the data-driven analysis were Pool Party, which is a semantic technology suite that supports the analysis of documents guided by a taxonomy of the domain of interest, Rexplore, which is an interactive environment for exploring scholarly data that leverages data mining, semantic technologies, and visual analytics techniques. And finally, Saffron, which is a term and taxonomy extraction tool, primarily used for expert finding. This is one of the charts showing what the different tools focused on. As you can see, each tool was used in a different way, extracting their own data in their own way. This is explained in much greater detail in the paper, showing that they had to leverage the findings against each other to determine a correct analysis and conclusion. As for analysis, you could literally spend 15 minutes just looking at the charts in this research paper, one of which is shown here to the right. Obviously, there's a ton of data, and there's a small time limit on this presentation. So I truly urge all of you that have the interest to go read this paper for yourself, as there is a lot of interesting findings. I think I had to read the analysis section about 3 times to start really understanding what they were all learning, as there's just so much data and so many charts. However, the basic takeaway was that the authors determined that using a manually built taxonomy of the different research areas led to better distinctions of topics. Again, this is a vast simplification, and I urge you all to read this for yourself, as it would take an hour to get an understanding of this experiment and analysis of the paper at the very least. So in conclusion, the authors were able to determine 11 core semantic web topics, 8 of which were confirmed upon the data-driven analysis. The other 3 topics are important as well, but not sufficiently represented. The qualitative methodology was determined to be able to benefit from the insights of experts who can reflect on their own prior research, whereas the data-driven methodologies have the finding backed by the data, which can then be used to perform a large range of other analyses. And in my opinion, I personally find data-driven investigations interesting on a very intrinsic level, so the thought of scientifically studying science was actually immediately interesting to me. In my opinion, I think the authors did a very good job representing the question that they were trying to address. The one critique that I had was if their manually delivered expert-driven analysis in the beginning biased their own observations when looking at the data-driven results received from the tools the authors used. It was a very interesting read, and I highly recommend you checking it out, but I have often found my own bias when I look at my own data that I have collected. Again, thank you very much for listening, and these are my references. The references are all directly from the paper, and this is the location of the paper. Thank you very much.